Matt, we were just talking about AMD's warning. We're talking about FedEx's memo and the concerns on overall demand, not just in consumer. Based on that, what do you read through as the impacts in Q4, not just for AMD, maybe even not just for chips, but for tech writ large?
Yeah, so I certainly think there's a broader slowdown. It's been the case in consumer. When you look at AMD, our view is it was a better positioned property. They're a share gainer. That those share gains would offset some of this weakness. I think what AMD's warning tells you is that even some of the best positioned companies are still going to struggle, given how difficult the macro environment, and particularly consumer spending, has gotten.
Okay, and what's the read-through then, say, for Intel, which was warning of inventory issues at its last report? AMD has been a share gainer during this period. Was this something that Intel saw earlier because it's bigger, or is it something that's going to get worse for Intel and others because it's this bad for AMD?
So I think with regards to Intel, they were a little bit ahead of AMD in warning about a difficult period. But even so, if you look at their assumptions around what the PC market was going to fall to, they were still ambitious. So I think that Intel probably better positioned itself for Q3 by taking numbers down. But they talked to a rebound in Q4, and I just don't know that there's any rebound in Q4.
Yeah, so Matt, the chip makers kind of well telegraphed in warning for a slowdown in demand and revenue. Who else is still out there? I mean, we've heard from AMD, and we've made that distinction between an Intel and an AMD versus, a category leader, that is. Who else is out there you think that maybe the expectations are too high for, that we're going to hear from in the next few weeks, either that in a warning or simply the results are going to be a big disappointment?
So names that haven't warned that I cover, certainly the memory space is falling apart. You saw that from Micron. We haven't gotten a warning from from Western Digital yet. I think that's expected. Samsung last night came out and gave a disappointing Q3 preliminary number. I think Hynix could very well have similar struggles. Sticking with that theme, Seagate, same thing. They talked to business rebounding in Q4. I'm not sure that there's any Q4 rebound. Rather, I think if anything, Q4 is likely Q4 and Q1 are the troughs for semis and tech stocks.
Hey, Matt, in terms of verticals, I mean, it seems like PCs now have fallen victim to what gaming already suffered from. What does it mean for the quickest vertical recovery, either in autos, or maybe it's about continued strength in data center or something else?
Yeah, so data center with enterprise, I'm concerned that you had budget set for 2022 back at the beginning of the year. And so there is still budget to spend. And that when we see the reset in 2023, that's when some of the enterprise names struggle a bit. The tougher read for me is on the hyperscale names. So when you're looking at the big cloud computing companies out there, like an AWS, like Microsoft Azure, I think they're still working to catch up to demand over the last 2-3 quarters in terms of building out infrastructure. And they're still struggling to get enough ICs. I'm not quite sure how that plays out next year. So if there's any space that still seems somewhat insulated, it's those names and companies supplying those large cloud companies. At the same time, given what's happened in the rest of their space, that's probably where there's more risk to if that sector deteriorates as well.